morning. I just thought I'd sit down here for a few minutes for today's vlog and talk to you about Mercury retrograde, because we're in it and we will be in it 3 times or 4 times every single year forever and ever and ever. And so people are like, oh, what is Mercury retrograde? First of all planets go retrograde. So I'm not going to get too technical. I'm just trying to give you like the synopsis of it, because if it can get really in detail, like really in detail, and then you can start like spiraling a little bit because you go down different rabbit holes, and I didn't want that to happen to you guys. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Mercury retrograde. So Mercury itself is the planet. Every planet and everything in life is energy, right? You guys know this. Everything is made of energy and everything emits energy, right? So in Mercury, when Mercury goes retrograde, if you were looking at it, it would give you the illusion, it doesn't happen, but it would give you the illusion that it's going in the opposite direction, which all planets, and you can have several planets in retrograde at one point. Why does Mercury like become the superstar there? And like people talk about that a lot more, is because it rules communication and it rules like electronical things, like things that have like moving parts to them. So different things can go down. So it happens, you know, this year is 2022. These are the dates here for Mercury retrograde of this year. Now, that being said, there's a shadow period before, for like a couple days, if not a week before and after. So I always say it's a good like month or so, if not a little bit more. And it's going to happen various times. So in the time of Mercury in retrograde, certain things, now see, everybody goes into a tailspin panic too. They're like, oh my God, Mercury retrograde is coming. It's going to be a nightmare. Okay, remember that negative mindset is never going to give you a positive outcome. That's just facts with everything in life, not just retrograde. So it rules communication. So what you have to be aware of, I'll give you some of the like warning signs, like things to like be aware of. Do not walk into your life all prepared. Don't like go over prepared. That's going to be a little bit, that's going to border into paranoia. You don't want that. Or like anticipatory, and then you're going to like make that happen. So you want to be really careful. But is watching your words. Be mindful of your communication. So when you communicate in general, I mean, communication can be hard. But when retrograde goes in effect, it goes a little wonky. Everything goes a little cray-cray. And in that space, people can take things out of context. You can say things without thinking more than normal. It can become problematic in communication. So with knowing the dates and knowing when these dates come, a lot of times you can be like, okay, I see what's going on. It's funny, like I just got a crack in my windshield. My car has like 2,000 miles on it. Got a crack from a rock, and I was like, we're in the shadow period. No, I don't think that just because that rock hit that it had just to do with the Mercury in retrograde. It's just those kind of things you become more hyper aware of, right? So electronics, right? It can be your dryer. I've had my dryer go up. I've had my microwave go up, all during retrograde. Yes, these things can happen outside of it. I'm just saying a lot of times this can happen energetically. So think of everything as being in alignment, right? So if we stack everything in order, it's in alignment. If we start playing Jenga and different things start coming out, it's going to go a little chaotic. So what you do is you sit in awareness with the fact that these things can happen, doesn't mean they're going to happen. So like if you're traveling, they always say try not to. Like you still have life to live. It's on like for 3 or 4 weeks, and you can be like, well, I just can't communicate with anyone, and I can't drive anywhere, and I can't travel. I mean, that's unrealistic. But you just be more mindful. So like if you were buying, so the rule of thumb is don't start anything new if you can help it. If you're like, oh my God, this is the best house I've ever seen, I got to put an offer on them, then yeah, just be aware that the paperwork could take a little longer, that the communication could be broken down, that you're going to run into some delays. Delays is probably the biggest thing there. And, and sitting in those, the facts isn't to try to prevent them, just to accept that it's going to happen or could happen. But yes, those like during travel. Let's say you're traveling during this retrograde or any retrograde. Doesn't mean that anything bad is going to happen. Just means like, you know what, you might have a little extra traffic. There might be something going on at TSA and the machine might break down and now you have a longer wait. You know, it could be, oh, the planes are delayed, like more than normal. Okay. So it's something for you to just be aware of, but don't go into a spiral panic. Another thing that can happen, doesn't always happen, but seems to a lot, is people from your past or different situations can resurface again, right? Doesn't mean that you have to entertain them, but people from your past can come back up, right? Or you can start thinking about something from the past that needs to be dealt with, right? Now, this is where we start changing, because it's not all bad. We're going to start changing that into positive, right? If you hear rustling going on, it's because the cat has found a bag and is playing in the bag. And we are not going to bust that fun, right? But so here are some good things to do. Pros of retrograde. It gives you the opportunity to pump your brakes and slow down. Slow down with what you're doing up here in your mind. What are some projects that you haven't finished? Now's a great time to slow down. Stop worrying about all these other goals and stuff that you have to achieve. Yes, you have your life to live, but don't focus solely on go, 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 go. Pause, come back, because whether you like it or not, retrograde will make that happen. So energetically, when you take a step back, you can look and say, oh, wow, I needed to finish this part of my book, or I needed to do this project on crochet, or I needed to do whatever. I need to finish my taxes. Whatever you need to wrap up, wrap that up. It's a good time to sit and reflect. Retrograde, think of retrograde and reflection going hand in hand. So it's not to be melancholy or anything, but you just sit in a space of reflection. So understanding, right? So like, to kind of sum it up, good, bad, and everything in between, there's no bad. It's just, it can be a little like annoying, is you will see that you got to be a little bit more, give yourself a little bit more leeway in time, right? Don't start anything new if you can help it. If it's already been in the works, like if you already like put in an offer on the house, you should be fine. But it's one of those things that it does take time to kind of get used to how the retrogrades work, because it's not a one hat fits all. It's not like every time retrogrades, this is what to expect, because it's going to be in different planets. And again, I promise that we can do this, but this would be like a 4.5 hour video, which I don't think that you're down for. But if this is your jam, and please let me know in the comments or on any of my other socials here, if you'd like for me to do more energy stuff, because it's a huge aspect to my practice. And plus I do practice basically a Buddhist lifestyle, right? And Buddhism is not a religion. So in that space, you're not as affected by it, just because you're still staying in the space and accepting that everything is temporary. But again, give yourself time to, don't just jump to the conclusion when somebody says something to you. Don't automatically go into defense. You might notice that you're a little bit more moody. Just be mindful. It's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault, but you need to check yourself, right? You don't, just because you're having a bad day or you have anxiety, you don't get to just treat people any way you want and think that things are going to be fine. So you want to be careful of that, because that can really rear its head during retrograde. All right. So to look and go back today or whenever you're watching this, and if you're in retrograde, even if you're not, but especially in retrograde, go and say, hey, what are some topics and tasks that I would like to get done? It doesn't even have to be anything like, well, it's all productive, but it doesn't have to be anything work-wise or goal-oriented. It could be like, I think I really did, I started cleaning out the closet. I think I'm going to go tackle that. Stop looking at everything you still have to do. I still have to do it. Pause, pump your brakes, right? If things go awry, try really hard to stay grounded and centered. Grounding and centering is the key to life. If you have your crystals, if you have whatever, deep breathing. Deep breathing always brings you back to space. Always, always, always. But yes, so that's some things to know about retrograde. Don't panic. Don't go into a tailspin. Don't go through anticipation. But just know, hey, for me, I'd like to know, hey, I'm not going to really try to start anything new. And if I do, I'm like, okay, let me really go back and dot my I's and cross my T's. It's not one of my, I got to not have those ADHD moments during retrograde, because then I'm going to impulsively do something and it's going to be problematic, and it's just delays. So it's not bad, and you can always take whatever that situation is and flip it to your benefit if you allow your mind to do that. So yeah, so that's the skinny on retrograde. All planets go into it. Different planets align with different parts of you and how it affects you, and Venus and like love and all these things. Yeah, but right now it's communication and things that have moving parts, right? So just be aware of it. It is okay. This too shall pass. Utilize it to your benefit, because when you do that, you're not operating from a place of scarcity. You're operating from a place of abundance.